The challenge is no longer diplomatic. It is now primarily technical and logistical. Because the scale of the investigation is now much more complex, the release of technical and logistical information will be handled differently. As you have seen today, this means that Malaysian Airlines will take the lead in communicating with the families. As the search area has narrowed, new challenges have arisen, including managing resources in a remote search and rescue effort, and we continue to work closely with our friends and partners as we seek to marshal more specific resources in support of the operations in that area. Last night, the Prime Minister announced that according to new analysis of satellite data, Inmarsat and UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch, AIBB, have concluded that flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean. Today I will provide further details on how the data was analyzed as provided by us by UK AIB. This information is quite technical in nature, so although I will give you as much information as I can, I will not be in a position to answer questions about the data analysis today. We will be providing this information as a press release at the end of this press conference, and this is the info provided to us by AIB. We will accept written questions which will be answered as soon as possible. In recent days, Inmarsat developed a second innovative technique which considers the velocity of the aircraft relative to the satellite. Depending on this relative movement, the frequency received and transmitted will differ from its normal value, in much the same way that the sound of a passing car changes and approaches and passes by. This is called the Doppler effect. The Inmarsat technique analyzes the difference between frequency that the ground station expects to receive and one that is actually measured. This difference is the result of the Doppler effect and is known as the burst frequency offset. The burst frequency offset changes depending on the location of the aircraft on an arc of possible positions, its direction of travel, and its speed. In order to establish confidence in its theory, Inmarsat checked its predictions using information obtained from 6 other B777 aircraft flying on the same day in various directions. There was good agreement. While on the ground at Kuala Lumpur Airport and during the early stage of the flight, MH370 transmitted several messages. At this stage, the location of the aircraft and the satellite were known, so it was possible to calculate system characteristics for the aircraft, satellite, and the ground station. During the flight, the ground station logged the transmitted and received pulse frequency at each handshake. Knowing the system characteristics and position of the satellite, it was possible, considering aircraft performance, to determine where on each arc the calculated burst frequency offset fits best. The analysis showed poor correlation with the northern corridor, but good correlation with the southern corridor. And depending on the ground speed of the aircraft, it was then possible to estimate the position at 0011 UTC, in which the last complete handshake took place. I must emphasize that this is not the final position of the aircraft. There is evidence of a partial handshake between the aircraft and the ground station at 0019 UTC. At this time, this transmission is not understood and is subject to further ongoing work. No response was received from the aircraft at 0115 UTC, when the ground earth station sent the next log-on, log-off message. This indicates that the aircraft was no longer logged on to the network. Therefore, sometime between 0011 UTC and 0115 UTC, the aircraft was no longer able to communicate with the ground station. This is consistent with the maximum endurance of the aircraft. This analysis by Inmarsat forms the basis for further study to attempt to determine the final position of the aircraft. Accordingly, the Malaysian investigation has set up an international working group comprising of agencies with expertise in satellite communication and aircraft performance to take this work forward. The new analysis I have described was convincing enough for the AAIB to brief the Prime Minister that MH370 flew along the southern corridor, and that its last position was in the middle of the Indian Ocean west of Perth. Within a few hours, the families had been informed, and the Prime Minister announced the new development to the world. As the Prime Minister stated, this type of analysis has never been done in an investigation of this sort. There remains more work to be done, and we are grateful to Inmarsat, AAIB, and the International Investigation Team for continuing to work with the Malaysian authorities. This is a developing situation, and as soon as we know more, we will share it. Operational updates. As a result of this new data analysis, the search and rescue operation in the northern corridor has been called off. We have also stopped the search and rescue operation in the northern part of the southern corridor, close to Indonesia. All search efforts are now focused in the southern part of the southern corridor, in an area covering some 469,407 square nautical miles. And this is as against 2.24 million square nautical miles, which was announced on 18th of March. We are currently working to further narrow down the search area using the four methods I mentioned previously, which is to gather information from satellite surveillance, analysis of surveillance radar data, increasing air and surface assets, and increasing the number of technical and subject matter experts. On the assets deployed, 2 Korean aircraft left Subang Airport for Perth this morning to help the multinational search operation. No flights from Perth to the search area took place today due to bad weather. 6 Chinese ships are currently in the search area. They are expected to arrive within the vicinity of MH370, last known position, by tomorrow morning. This ship includes the icebreaker Zulong. HMAS Success is also currently in the search area. The American-towed Pinger Locator, an instrument that can help find a black box, is currently en route to Perth and will arrive tomorrow. The system will be fitted into the Australian ship Ocean Shield, which is due to dock in Perth on the 28th of March. The Ocean Shield fitted with the towed Pinger Locator is due to arrive in the search area on the 5th of April. Ladies and gentlemen, the new analysis shared with the investigation by Inmarsat and the AAIB has focused our efforts on the southern part of the southern corridor. Although yesterday's news was incredibly hard for the family members, as our Prime Minister said, it was released out of a commitment to openness and respect for the relatives, 2 principles which have guided us in our investigations. Thank you.
Prime Minister of Malaysia, Dr. Sri Najib Razak, announced new evidence regarding the disappearance of MH370 on the 8th of March. Based on this evidence, the Prime Minister's message was that we must now accept the painful reality that the aircraft is now lost and that none of the passengers or crew on board survived. This is a sad and tragic day for all of us at Malaysia Airlines. While not entirely unexpected, after an intensive multinational search across 2.24 million square mile area, this news is clearly devastating for the families of those on board. They have waited for over 2 weeks for even the smallest of hope of positive news about their loved ones. This has been an unprecedented event, requiring an unprecedented response. The investigation underway may yet prove to be even longer and more complex than it has been since March the 8th. But we will continue to support the families, as we have done throughout, and to support the authorities as the search for definitive answers continues. I will now, at this juncture, ask our Group Chief Executive, Ahmad Jawari, to provide you with fuller details of our support of the families.
Thank you, Mr. I stand before you today not only as the Group Chief Executive Officer of Malaysia Airlines, but also as a parent, as a brother, and as a son. My heart breaks to think of the unimaginable pain suffered by all the families. There are no words which can ease that pain. Everyone in Malaysia Airlines family is praying for the 239 souls on the 370 and for their loved ones on this dark day. We extend our prayers and sincere condolences. We all feel enormous sorrow and pain. Sorrow that all those who boarded flight MH370 on Saturday, 8th of March, will not see their families again. And those families will now have to live on without their loved ones. It must be remembered that 13 of our own colleagues and fellow Malaysians were also on board. And let me be very clear on the events of yesterday evening. Our sole and only motivation last night was to ensure that the incredibly short amount of time available to us, the families heard the tragic news before the world did. Wherever humanly possible, we did so in person with the families, or by telephone, using SMS as the last resort of ensuring fully that nearly 1,000 family members heard the news from us and not from the media. Ever since the disappearance of flight MH370, Malaysia Airlines' focus has been to comfort and support the families of those involved, and also to support the multinational search effort. We will continue to do this while we also continue to support the work of the investigating authorities in the southern Indian Ocean. Like everyone else, we're waiting for news from those authorities. We know that while there have been an increasing number of apparent leads, definitive identification of any piece of debris is still missing. But after 17 days, the announcement made last night and shared with the families is the reality that we must face and we now must accept. When Malaysia Airlines received approval from the investigating authorities, arrangement will be made to bring families to the recovery areas if they so wish. Until that time, we will continue to support the ongoing investigation. And may I express my thanks to the Malaysian government and all those involved in this truly global search effort. In the meantime, Malaysia Airlines' overwhelming focus will be the same as it has been from the outset, to provide the families with a comprehensive support program. Through a network of over 700 dedicated caregivers for each family, the loved ones or those on board have been provided with 2 dedicated caregivers, and they provide care, support and counsel to the families. We are now supporting over 900 people under this program, and in the last 72 hours alone, we have trained additional 40 caregivers to ensure the families have access to round-the-clock support. In addition, hotel accommodation for up to 5 family members per passengers, transportation, meals and other expenses have been provided since 8th of March, and that will continue. Malaysia Airlines have already provided initial financial assistance of $5,000 per passenger to each next of kin. We recognize the financial support is not the only consideration, but the prolonged search is naturally placing financial strain on the relatives. We are therefore preparing to offer additional payment as the search continues. This unprecedented event in aviation history has made the past 18 days the greatest challenge to face our entire team at Malaysia Airlines. I've been humbled by the hard work, by dedication, heartfelt messages of concern and offers of support from our remarkable team. We do not know why, we do not know how, we do not know how this terrible tragedy happened. But as Malaysia Airlines family, we are all praying for the passengers and crew of MH370.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, I now open the floor for a question and answer session. Please state your name and media organization before you ask the question.
Yes, I'm from Hong Kong Phoenix TV. My name is Carol Chow. Actually, just now you show your sorrow to the family members, but we heard their shouts and screams, especially in Beijing, the hotel. So, up to now, they said you delayed the investigations. Did you? And actually, what is the evidence, exact evidence that you show can get a result? And some of the family members told us they went to Australia. They want to go to Australia, so could you arrange the trip for them? Thank you.
First and foremost, as you will appreciate, the missing plane was reported to the authorities, and since then it was a matter for the authorities to take over the seeking and searching and finding the plane. And it is since then the domain of the authorities. But as I mentioned earlier, our focus, our center of action throughout this period, painful period that is at this, was to provide care and assistance to our passengers. Certainly, this is a time of extraordinary emotions, so we fully understand. And in fact, we really people, our family members of kin. In terms and how they react is on the, it's emotional, as we may understand. As regards going to Australia, as AJ mentioned just now.
With regard to going to Australia, we had been informed by the Australian authorities that visa will only be given or granted to those family members once the evidence has been established. I'm talking about the Pictani evidence.
Yes.
Next question.
Hello, sir. I'm from China News Service. My question is that so far you haven't found any evidence or records about the missing plane, but how have you so sure about you have determined to believe that the plane is crashed? How do you believe that? And based on the analysis of the image satellite, can you answer that? Thank you.
Fair enough. I think that's a very fair question. But as you would also
Sit down, please.
Especially last night, the Prime Minister came out himself to share that he has been given fairly credible leads that would point to where the plane ended its flight. And as he mentioned, that position is very far away, very remote, away from the nearest landmass. And after 17 days, we could only bring ourselves to reach certain conclusion. Yes, please.
Danny Lee, South China Morning Post. You talk in your statement just a minute ago that this conclusion was not unexpected. Why did you wait so long for the families for them to actually be told that their loved ones are basically dead? And once, Mr. Johari, that you concluded your part of the investigation, will you resign?
As far as Chairman has mentioned, Sergeant has mentioned, we take lead from the investigation basically team that's been led by DCA. And yesterday, when the Prime Minister made that statement, it's very evident that the aircraft ended its flight in the middle of South Indian Ocean. Okay, so we will have to be, we just have to follow those evidence has been presented to us. And what we did yesterday was to share that as quickly as possible to the next of kin. And will I resign? It's a personal, basically, decision. We'll take it later.
Next.
Hello, sir. I'm from Xinhua News Agency. My question is, has the Malaysian side provided all the information and evidence to the Chinese side that lead to the conclusion of the MH370 flight ending in the ocean?
Firstly, my answer is that Malaysia Airlines is the first affected party. The investigation is with the authorities, and it's best to ask the authorities.
Okay, the next one, lady in.
Thanks, Tencent from China. I have two questions. The first one, I would like to rephrase from some media colleagues asked. Now we confirm that the plane is ended in this middle of the South Indian Ocean, but can the survival chance of the passengers there be totally avoided? This is the first question. The second one is now there's some reports about this time the MH370's missing could be some machinery problem, which is very closely similar as the incident happened in 2005. Also, Malaysia airplane and also the Boeing 737. That airplane is from Singapore to Perth, and it happened as a sharp turnaround and very unstable altitude flying records. So people say these two incidents had very similar developments there. So could it be this incident today has been caused by some machinery failure? Do you have any information on that?
I'm sure that would be a very important consideration to be taken by the investigators. Thank you.
But the two questions, the first one, the survival chances could be totally avoided now.
At the moment, that's how we are looking at it. Because the plane ended at a place extremely remote from any landmass.
So can you be more clear on that? Can you repeat that in the book? What are you saying about the survival?
This by the evidence given to us and by the rational deduction, we could only arrive at that conclusion. It is for Malaysia Airlines to declare that it has lost its plane, and by extension, the people on the plane.
Thank you, Bob. Lady over here.
Thank you. I'm from Chinese Hunan TV station. Yeah, during these several days, I have interviewed some people in Malaysia, including some family members. Most of them were not satisfied with the reaction to this emergency. What's your opinion about this? And why you isolate them to the outside world? Thank you.
We are saying they are dissatisfied with the opinion. I mean, can you say that? Can you repeat your question, please?
During these several days, I have interviewed some people in Malaysia, include some family members. Most of them were not satisfied to the reaction to this emergency. So what's your opinion about this? And why you isolate them to the outside world? Thank you.
Firstly, our first concern, particularly for the families from China, is for their safety and comfort and certainly privacy. And that is the main concern that drives whatever we try to offer to the family members. And in terms of why we still keep them hanging on, is simply we all share their hope as well.
Why you isolate them with the outside world?
And I say it's not probably isolating them is not a correct impression. We certainly put them in a place where they're comfortable, and that also a place where they could have privacy. And our caregivers are given, and they have given access to our caregivers with whatever they require, like visiting the places of worship for them to offer their prayers and things like that. So they are not being closeted.
Okay, next question.
Can you hear me?
I can, but it's better if we share with the rest.
Yeah, okay, it's working now. Siva from Reuters, gentlemen, my condolences. The reports of the police have now narrowed the investigation to the crew members and the pilots in particular. They have discounted anything from the passenger side. Could you comment on that? Could you also talk to Malaysia Airlines? Have you had any problems in the past? Any disciplinary issues with the pilots or the crew? Anything that might point to anything? Thank you.
I appreciate that. I think a fair question. Just that if I may just bring back to the purpose of this press conference is to share with the other than the families of our affected passengers and crew about what we had done last night. That is to break the news. And what we're doing next, particularly in terms of continuing with our caregiving to our passengers' families, and what we do in terms of the normal process, as you imagine, for events like this. So your question is correct, but I think the right forum is when we meet the investigators. Thank you.
Okay, the next question will be from the gentleman over there.
Near the speaker.
Angus Whitley from Bloomberg News. You referred earlier to the information that led to last night's announcement, but can you say exactly what the new analysis was and what the new data was that gave you enough certainty to make that statement?
That's right. The best time is this afternoon's PC with the Ministry of Transport. They will be better to explain. We are just another affected party as well.
But you know, presumably, what the analysis was. What was it?
We have been given the indication that we should now arrive at that very sad conclusion for us to make as the owner of the plane.
The questions are unanswered from last night. Can you give any more clarity?
Yes, I said the best time is when we have the Ministry of Transport PC this afternoon.
Right, thank you. The next question will be from the gentleman.
Jeremy Grant from Financial Times. In the spirit of helping the families understand what has happened, and bearing in mind that you now do have more information which led you to the conclusion that the Prime Minister announced, what is your best analysis of how the plane got there, what actually happened, bearing in mind that we have quite some hours before the next press conference?
I don't want to speculate in terms of what happened to the aircraft. I think the investigation is ongoing. Okay, I think our focus is really for the family members, how to help them moving forward. And that's really our focus here. Otherwise, we are just speculating. And I think the investigation is not concluded, so I don't want to speculate anymore on that.
We're spending all the time now in the process going forward in terms of how we can meet legal as well as moral obligations to the families.
Thank you, Councillor. The next question for the gentleman at the back.
Thank you. Steve Futterman from CBS News. I want to ask a question about the perception, and this has been dealt with a little bit so far at the news conference. Some people, the family members, have not been happy with the way this all has come down as far as their isolation in some cases, whatever. Some people have suggested or implied that Malaysian airline officials have been heartless. Have you been heartless? Can you respond to that?
Firstly, we can appreciate that no two persons affected by the event would have a similar reaction and emotional response. So depending who you speak to, you will get a different version. So there are also enough numbers who have shown their appreciation for what we have done, and we really touched by that, and it encourages even more. So it's a question of limitation and practical limitation that we're looking at. But coming from our bottom of our heart, we're really reaching for, because you realize that 13 of the missing passengers and crew and one passenger, member of our family. Malaysia Airlines is an extremely closely knit organization. We feel for each other, and that sort of extension and possibly extends to our passengers as well. So the first thought is to provide the comfort was there. From the first day, we immediately formed these family assistance centers all over the place. And we dispatched our caregivers to show that, we meant what we said. And we probably enable them to provide whatever first reach that we can do. And certainly no amount of compensation or consolation will make up for any loss of life. And we appreciate that.
And could I ask one follow-up? Are you going to attempt, or will your high-ranking executives attempt to meet and talk to every family that has suffered a loss?
This is being done all the time, sir. The question that we do not display our name when we go. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question from the gentleman in red shirt.
Márcio Gomes from TV Globo Brazil. How do you see, I know it's a difficult question, but how do you see this position of Australian government that only will grant the visas for the families when an evidence is found? Maybe still there is hope in Australians' opinion?
Well, actually, I can't speak on behalf of Australian government. But
that's why I say that's a difficult question.
Yeah.
Do you agree with this position?
It's whether I agree or I don't agree. It's a position the Australian government takes. Okay. Like I said, we are here to ensure that we support the family, right, and to make sure that we fulfill their wishes.
You have to explain a little bit more. Firstly, okay, in this time of human challenge, compassion will rise. So I think protocol notwithstanding, I'm sure those issues will be raised. As you say, this is an unprecedented event, and we may be looking at some unprecedented way to resolve this. So we need not necessarily look at the book immediately.
Okay, we go to the last couple of questions.
I'm sure that this issue will arise, and I'm sure it will be addressed.
The next question.
Hi, Jason from the Wall Street Journal. I understand that you have stressed that your focus right now is to help the families and so on, but Malaysia Airlines is also a party to the investigation and also the owner of the aircraft. So can you tell us, after more than 2 weeks, what is the most likely cause for this mishap? Is it more? Can you at least tell us confidently that it's not the plane's problem, it's pilot's error, or?
Yeah, I appreciate your curiosity, as we are also. But we have to draw a line between what is, should be in the formal domain and what we can do. Our focus at the moment is more in terms of what we can do, which is outside the investigation area.
Yeah, so but can you provide at least a little bit more information?
Yeah,
sure everyone here would like to know.
Yeah, certainly, but we will not want to jeopardize our anticipation.
Okay, can I have the last question from the local media, please?
Yes, please. Can I have one question over here? Melissa from Channel News Asia. I would like to talk about future for MAS. May I know how badly has it affected business for MAS? How badly confidence has been shaken, and what do you intend to do about it?
Well, obviously it has affected the airline, but so far, like I said, we're doing our best to ensure that those that bought Malaysia Airlines tickets, we ensure that they are being served, make sure that they're being flown safely, comfortably. Moving forward is something that we will look into. Obviously, it's something that we must basically share with the families of those on board. We must empathize with them, and I think this is a very painful period for the airline, and something that we have to basically, we do share this period with the families of passengers and the crew. Our procedures are code tango, not necessarily we actually declaring code tango now, but we have actually ratcheted up our process and procedures up to level of code tango, okay, to ensure safety and security of our flights.
Thank you. Can we have closing words from you, Tan Sri, as well as from AJ?
Inshallah, we can have a separate one. Thank you. So, my only remarks are the same as original. We are extremely sorrowful for the event, and our hearts and prayers are with the family. Thank you.
AJ, final remarks from you?
Our focus, as Tan Sri mentioned, is really to ensure that we provide care basically for the families as we move forward. It's not very easy. It has been 18 days, and yesterday's announcement was, really a painful, basically a very painful fact for us of losing an aircraft in the middle of South Indian Ocean. And our responsibility as an airline and our moral responsibility here is to ensure that we manage the lives of those affected moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Tan Sri. For members of the